So welcome guys to the Thursday Zoom, and I hope you're enjoying this kind of layout. I know some of us might be used to the previous one where we turn up and talk about the week, but we'll go with this one instead because I can get through a lot more information. So I'll do my usual, hop on the WhatsApp group and just explain the questions that we got into the group, and then try and answer them the best I can with the help of research and just notes. So the first two questions are from Laura, and they're very good questions. So, can you talk more about alcohol and nutrition? I liked the trade-off comment you made. I'd like to get to a point where it was every now and again, but find it hard as we've planned most weekends. And that's, yeah, that's the difficulty. It's with alcohol. I'm definitely not anti-alcohol, but the more I'm talking about it, the more, and even in my own life, I really see the kind of scales tipping in the quite substantially in the less alcohol field, and just looking at the benefits against the pros, and the pros are very low when it comes to alcohol. And I'm talking about any kind of dosage, but from a from a social aspect, yes. But we can still argue the point, do we need alcohol to socialize? Not really, but sometimes it's nice to have, like, some of the alcohol is nice, it brings down kind of stress levels, etc., at like low dosage. But it's also the fact that we have so many negatives to it as well. So when we talk about trade-offs, it's kind of like, okay, do I have two drinks? Well, the trade-off is a little bit of effective sleep, but then we start getting to three or four or five drinks. The trade-off is starting to really go in the negative direction. So it's trying to think, how far do I tip it? When we talk about, the context is like alcohol and nutrition. So think about it from an aspect of, well, how does alcohol impact nutrition? So context is key. So alcohol roughly has about 7 calories per gram. So to put that into context, and it's nearly as dense as dietary fat, which, if we've heard in the past and I've said it before, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So more or less the same as alcohol. Big difference between fat and alcohol is that alcohol comes with no nutrients, so it's empty calories, unlike dietary fat, which in a lot of cases has good stuff involved in it. So think about oily fish, good for the joints, good for kind of repair of tissues. Alcohol doesn't come with that, it comes with a lot of side effects. Then we look at like drinks with mixers, syrups, beer, wine, they can add up fast. Depending on the night out, it could easily go to an extra 500 and 1,000 calories just from drinks alone. Now that does depend on how prepared we are, that we are. That's just a very broad aspect. But let's say 5.5 pints of Guinness, 1,100 calories. And that's before we even go to, well, I'll munch a little bit or I'll have a takeaway after the night out, etc. Now, I'm not being a killjoy here and saying don't do it. It's making us aware and reminding us as to why we maybe need to think about, do we want to trade these things off? Also, nutrition, um, fat metabolism. So your body will prioritize metabolizing the alcohol over fats, carbohydrates. So kind of fat oxidation is paused while you're drinking. Um, Frequent intake, and I've seen this before. I'll give the example because I like giving examples, whether it's me as the example or maybe we just finished the 6 week nutrition course. And there's one particular person who doesn't drink an awful lot, but likes a drink or two or maybe three glasses of wine on a Friday, Saturday night. And what we found was that the person did not lose weight over the 6 weeks. Now, it felt like it was disaster zone for the person because they didn't lose any weight. And I stressed that, well, maintenance is good as well. But if you're not really willing to make a dent into your alcohol intake, maybe it's 7, 8, 9, 10 units a week. Mightn't seem like a lot, but when you're eating your regular calories and adding those number of units into the week, well, it's going to slow the process down. Even moderate intake will slow your fat loss outside of all the other kind of negative benefits to it. So, devil's in the dosage. this is someone who would do it maybe on a Friday and Saturday night every single week, where they'd sit at home and maybe have two, three glasses of wine. Might like the inevitable meal out, and it mightn't be a necessarily really bad or particularly heavy meal, but eating out we generally know is a higher calorie intake. The bigger difference with this person, maybe compared to someone like yourself, Laura, is they probably wouldn't plan the day ahead where they mightn't go, well, I'll be a bit more careful on the breakfast and lunch, or I might be a bit more careful from Monday to Friday. So there's that element as well. But just to give that as a context. Um, and then when we look from a recovery standpoint outside, like we talk about alcohol, it impairs muscle, a thing called, and if you can research this all, like if you want, a term called muscle protein synthesis. So the the ability of your muscles to absorb protein and recovery after training. So especially if it's consumed soon after alcohol is consumed after exercise. Dehydration is another element, and poor sleep. Now we'll go through like some of these strategies. You've probably heard some of these before. I've said some of them before, but dehydration and poor sleep are really a big element of this as well. And even if you kind of put into context, like let's say if I went on a night out tomorrow night, and just even the idea of going to bed at 12, 1, 2, if it's a really good night, 3 o'clock, how that affects your sleep and wake times. Just that one night, like I know myself because I'm working on my sleep at the moment, and I'm really finding through journaling, through the food I'm taking in, I'm finding it difficult to stay within a calorie intake. It's because I definitely know now that I'm chronically sleep deprived. Um, Even though I'll get to bed early enough, but it's not early enough. Like 9 to 10 o'clock for me is really the maximum, and me going to bed at 10:30 is really affecting things, and that's without alcohol. So let's put alcohol into the mix, and getting to bed even later will affect the whole week, and it takes a while to get back into that rhythm. Then there's micronutrient depletion. So alcohol interferes with the absorption of vitamins, especially B vitamins, zinc, and magnesium. Magnesium, again, very much in the realm of sleep. So again, you get that double whammy. And repeated intake can cause low energy and sluggish recovery. And then day after, if we're not prepared, the usual, well, I'll go in, like our food choices are greatly impaired. And sleep and appetite, and that reels into what I just said. So, alcohol may help you sleep faster. And how many of us have a good night out, and then the next thing we just literally get our head on the bed and fast asleep? But as I've said in the past, that makes zero difference to the quality of sleep. The quicker you can get to sleep, not always equates to quality. Generally, when we're drinking alcohol, we don't go to bed at 9, 10 o'clock unless it's an early start. So we're going to bed later. Our sleep quality is worse because we have less REM and more waking events. And even if we don't know there's waking events, we're not getting into that deep REM sleep. Again, alcohol, as we know, increases appetite and decreases inhibition. So there's more snacking and overeating. How many nights out do we go, or if we're going to a house and we have some alcohol, is there like bowls of crisps and all sorts, and we just don't even think about it. So when we talking about tipping the scales a little bit, how can we include alcohol in our like kind of plan without going mad? Now, loads of these ideas um I've spoken about before. I think they're probably just good just as little reminders, because again, even I will forget some of these. Like you'll always say and you'll hear like stay hydrated, reduce calories on weekdays, etc. But it's always good as a reminder. We all forget, and it's good to have to go back over them. One thing that I know, the first kind of plan that I know, Laura, you're particularly good at is planning your weekly calories. So treat alcohol as part of your calorie budget. So if you're tracking kind of calories or macros, allocate, I don't know why I keep messing up my words, allocate to 400 calories for drinks on weekends. So we know that we're maybe having a couple of kind of White Claws, or we might have a couple of gin and tonics. We plan around. Slightly reduce your calories on weekdays. if fat loss is your goal. Now, when we say slightly, we're not going like, don't go to the point where you're at your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. So if you're on your, if you have a look at your, what we, our in-body scan, it says BMR of 1350, you don't be reducing it to 1350 Monday to Friday because it's just developing a bad pattern. Reduce by 50 or 100 calories a day, especially if we don't have a lot to play with. Choose lower impact drinks. So lower impact drinks, spirits with a slimline tonic with some lime, some light beers. There's definitely a lot more light beers out there. Dry wine, so not your reds, maybe a little bit of white, maybe not as nice, but again. And then we're looking to avoid kind of sugary cocktails, cream liqueurs, heavy beers. Even something the other week, I was out, now I mainly drank non-alcoholic, but I had maybe 3 whiskeys. I don't drink whiskey straight. But it's never something that occurred to me that when you're drinking whiskey with a mixer such as Coca-Cola, you're always given Coca-Cola. And there's absolutely no difference to taste if you have a whiskey and Coke Zero compared to a whiskey and a Coca-Cola. And it never, I know a lot of this stuff, but it never occurs to me on a night out because you're just not even thinking. But then I'm like, Coke Zero has like 0 calories. The whiskey has 90, so I had 3 drinks. I consumed 270 calories, as opposed to the extra Coca-Cola, which could be 100, 150 calories every single time, and you're seeing no difference in the overall taste. So it's simple things like that, that when we're not thinking, that can make all the difference. We I definitely, and I'm not being sexist whatsoever, but on nights out, I generally find that women are a lot better at this. Just being in kind of nights out and seeing people, I see women a lot better at the hydration piece. I don't know why. I just think women are a lot more aware of what they're doing. And that I definitely see this happening a lot, and maybe some of you guys can attest to this. Staying hydrated, so a 1-1 rule. So 1 glass of water per drink. It'll again dilute the effects of the alcohol. Um, Another option if you're coming home, and it's a very trendy thing at the moment. I'm going to go and run and grab it because I don't really. I need to calm down on taking this because unless you're doing a high intensity exercise that you're sweating a lot, or if you're drinking, these may be beneficial. Going and sit and drinking these all the time, not ideal because there is sodium in them. If we have a high sodium diet, we don't need to be adding extra sodium if we're not losing sodium. So I'm just going to show you. It's called obviously electrolyte. So let's see what I have here. Sorry, should have brought these with me the last time. And this is one type, so O or S. Now there's loads of brands out there. Hydration tablets. So we have salt, vitamin B2, potassium, chloride, sodium, and glucose. So if you're doing a high intensity workout, maybe 45 minutes plus, and we lose a lot, especially in the summer, lose a lot of fluid through sweat, these can be helpful. Or if we're hydrated or dehydrated, like going on a night out, may be helpful. So replacing the magnesium and sodium before bed. So there's one option. Other options, eat strategically. So before drinking, some protein-rich balanced meal with some fiber. Steadies your blood sugar and slows the absorption of the alcohol. Again, it's difficult sometimes, but avoid greasy food. So hydrate and get quality sleep. Schedule training wisely. So if you're planning to go out and you're going to be drinking on a Friday and Saturday, the kind of mind will be like, well, I'm drinking heavy now on Saturday. I'm going to have to push hard now on a Saturday workout. Try and pick your hardest training days earlier in the week. Recovery orientated or rest days aligned with the event. Support recovery. And I've said this where the next day is vital. So if we're not doing what we like, if we're doing, we can do a lot of damage on the night out, but it's the next day where you can really make or break things. Prioritize protein. So really like making a non-negotiable the day after. Plenty of fruits and veggies. So here's my fruit and veg right beside me that I have scheduled to eat after this. So pear, apple, omega-3s. So getting your fish oils in, eating some good fish, getting the brain back into a good headspace after drinking. And then consider a multivitamin or B complex if drinking frequently. So What's in this? B vitamin, something like that, after drinking. And consider, like, a lot of times, and this is the big one, like, consider trying some alcohol-free options. I've tried these things, and I know sometimes it's like having, like, I personally think there's no fun in decaf coffee. I always say death before decaf. Now, I'm saying it jokingly. Obviously, some of us like, Saoirse, you need a decaf coffee. And we're so reliant on caffeine, as an example, that, like, if I had a decaf coffee now, I'd instantly get pounding headache because you're expecting to get something into your body that is not coming. Like, you're drinking alcohol and then you're drinking a non-alcoholic drink and you expect to get this kind of quick buzz from alcohol and then you don't get it. My own personal experience with non-alcoholic, a lot of it is just it's not the same. I find the one piece, like the one non-alcoholic drink I've found that is absolutely the same, minus the alcohol. But I don't get the pounding headache. It's Guinness 0.0. No, no, that's not everyone's cup of tea. Comes out the exact same, tastes the exact same. Um, Not quite the third of the calories, but there's 91 calories in a pint of Guinness 0.0, where there's 220 in the full one. You're not getting then waking up the next day feeling rubbish. Or, example, that night out a couple of weeks ago with the nutrition group, and we sat, had a meal. I just took with non-alcoholic and then had like three whiskeys after. And then the next day I was up training, no problem. So I mixed a bit of non-alcoholic and alcoholic. So there's many options. It takes preparation though. I knew I was going into that and I was like, I'm going to a nutrition night out. I don't need to be drinking. So I'll go non-alcoholic, alcoholic, and I felt like I had a great night out. Wasn't like I was missing out because other people were having alcoholic beverages. I felt like it was just normal. So again, we don't need alcohol all the time to have a good time. It's just trying to refrain from that. So I know there's a lot of food for thought there. It's just, where are your goals? Where are the trade-offs? If you can't give up a certain amount in that, well, just expect, like, if you're having 10 units of alcohol a week, even with do we want to constantly have to reduce calories just for the sake of an alcoholic beverage, or do we want to consume our calories through nutritious food and not have to rely on saving calories for a liquid beverage that is not giving you a lot of benefit outside of a little bit of a social aspect? So we kind of have to weigh it up. Think, how important is this to me? And I know we probably want, oh yeah, you can lose weight and drink loads of, or not drink a moderate amount of alcohol, but we have to be realistic here. I'm not going to, like, I don't want people eating 1,200 calories a week or day just to get a couple of alcoholic beverages in during the weekend. To me, that makes no sense unless it's now and again. But if you're doing it every week, I just think you're missing out, like, especially when we're restricted on how much we can take in. If we're only taking in 1550 and then, oh, I have to restrict 100 or 150 every single day just to get a beverage in that's not really benefiting you that much, but then you can't take in these nutritious foods as snacks, then it really, like, that's where I'm trying to get at there. It's trying to weigh everything up and see, does it really play that big a role in our life? Now and again, if you're going for a wedding or something, yes, plan around that, but do we need to do it more often than not? So I think that's going to give you more questions again than answers, but it's trying to get the mind thinking and maybe reframe things around alcohol. And that goes for everyone in the group. I know Laura sent that and I did a big long answer on that, but it's maybe having a bigger question around alcohol. And my question around alcohol as well, like, I'm definitely in the realm of, like, I wouldn't really drink at home, but drinking at home for me is just a no now. There's no benefit for me. I don't see it. Like, I don't see any benefit from a drinking at home, especially, like, maybe if you're with a partner or something. I'm by myself, so there's absolutely no benefit to me. Like, alcohol in my fridge. It's sat there for 6 months. I have no urge for that alcohol. It's just it's there. Other question, with fiber, is it okay going from low fiber each day, say 10 grams to recommended 30 grams? Tips to add it to meals we already eat. So yeah, I would be of the opinion. Now, this is only personal opinion. I would, like anything, especially fiber, I would go slowly. So if you're on 10 grams today, maybe go 15 grams tomorrow, maybe not go from 10 to 30 and then your body's just not ready for it. So yeah, absolutely. And that's my opinion. There's no scientific base around that. How can we add it in? Well, you can get fiber by eating plant-based foods like fruit, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds. Increasing your intake is dependent on the person. So definitely looking for the full fruit as opposed to drinking it. So once we blend these down, we lose the fiber, increase the sugar intake. And that's why we generally say if we're eating a smoothie or something like that, you're trying to balance it out with some protein so you're not just eating pure sugar, and slow the intake. So I'm not big on this insulin spike, but we don't have these spikes in your blood sugar. Eating vegetables with their skin on, eating fruit with their skin on. What did I say to a few of you before? The difference between some of us hitting our fiber intake and not could be the difference between the skin on a kiwi. And I'm going to get the exact right down here. I know we were speaking about skin on a kiwi, but just for context, and this is a very specific one, but eating the skin on a kiwi provides about 50% more fiber than eating it peeled. And that's just a kiwi example. Now, I don't expect us to go out and go and eat an orange peel. Absolutely not. Um, the skin also contains other nutrients, folate and vitamin E, good source of both soluble and insoluble fiber. Um, the one thing you're supposed to do, which I never do, is wash the fruit well and scrub it off. But yeah, definitely look for the whole kiwi. Um, and I think some of us spoke about there is a study out there that talks about sleep. Yeah, absolutely. I don't usually like saying about one thing, but there is research that indicates that consuming the whole kiwi, including the skin, improves gut microbiome diversity, which in a lot of cases we all lack these days because of the modern diet. So definitely looking at that. But kiwi skin, I'm trying to get the exact number here. So fiber exact. So number. See if we can get that on average. Okay, so a whole green kiwi with skin contains approximately 3.5 grams of fiber, while a gold kiwi with skin on is about 3 grams. Eating the skin adds 50% more fiber than eating the flesh alone. So there you go. So that could be the difference because in the last group and the 6 week group, a lot of people were up at the 26, 28 grams, and eating the skin of the kiwi could be the difference for tipping the balance. I know 10 grams of fiber a day won't tip the balance, but that's one example. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so yeah, how do we add it in? Fruits. So eating whole fruits like berries, pears, apples, avocados, get fiber. Again, choose whole foods over the juice. Choose skin on in certain things, certain areas, then skin off. Vegetables. So leave the skin on. Potatoes, cucumbers. One I want to double check here before I check is, just bear with me here. I'm using a Google search, so I have exact, so I don't want to. Carrots, 100 grams, 2.8. Now, I know 2.8 mightn't seem like a lot, but 2.8, I'd rather 2.8 than nothing. So carrots, very good. And good volume in carrots for the calories as well. So we're probably looking at calorie intake per gram of fiber as well. So look at those two resources I sent you all earlier in the week. There's a meal plan around how to get 30 grams of fiber in, highest grams per calories per subgroup as well. So definitely, Laura, print those out because it shows you the top fiber um, fiber content um, per 100 grams or 100 calories, etc. So what there's 100 calories and what are the best fiber intakes per like group. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, and legumes. They're the main ones. In whole grains, you've got your oatmeal, brown rice, quinoa, barley, whole wheat bread, and pasta over refined grains. Then beans and legumes, so lentils, chickpeas, other beans are excellent source of fiber, and add them to soups, chilies, and salads. So this and nuts and seeds can be there. The only thing with nuts and seeds is they're not going to be very high potential because of their high calorie content. Like anything, I think tips for increasing fiber intake, what will we think when we think, maybe think of it like how do we increase protein intake? It all starts with breakfast, really. So start the day with fiber. I know in the last group, Siobhan definitely recommended. Now, I am not saying this is going to taste nice. I've never tasted it before, but there is a lot of studies around psyllium husk. It acts like a binding agent, but has good benefits when it comes to fiber. It expands, so it's a good option. I heard it tastes not so great. If you want an alternative to psyllium husk, chia seeds. They expand when you put them in, so chia seeds. Um, read nutritional labels. Get used to reading your nutritional labels, not looking at the ingredients list, but looking at, you're not going to see it here, but nutritional information. You don't drink hydration tablets for fiber, 0 grams. So you can see what the grams is per 100. High fiber, I think it's 5 grams. Just hang on there. High fiber. I like just double checking so I don't say the wrong thing. High fiber, what is classed as high fiber? I'm almost certain it's 5 grams. High fiber, 100 grams. I'm just going to double check this one. What is classed as high fiber? Okay, 6. So that's why I checked. So for something to be classed as high in fiber, it needs to contain 6 grams or more per 100 grams. 6 grams or more fiber per 100 grams. For a product to be classed as a source of fiber, it must contain at least 3 grams per 100 grams. So just have that in mind when we're looking at nutrition labels. I'm just researching things because I don't want to say something. I was about to say 5. Now, 5 or 6, much or muchness, but I just want to give you the right information. Um, so example, let's have a look here. Just hang on there. I have multi-seed and cereal bagel. Just let's give this an example. Cheryl's Slim. The only one I'd really ever recommend when it comes to slim stuff. A lot of slim stuff is absolutely rubbish. Either bagels that have just been cut in half compared to the normal size. So each bagel is 48 grams. 2 bagels would more or less be the 100 grams. So 2 bagels, 7 grams of fiber. So this could be classed as a high fiber option. And what can we add with something like this? Protein. Chicken, add something to it. I would generally not eat these with just butter. Not really getting a lot out of it, but they are dividers for extra things. So you're getting your salad tomatoes in there, getting your lettuce, getting some chicken in there. Maybe trying to find, like, I'm not going to, like, if we want to have a balance, maybe having a low calorie sauce in there, like a low fat mayo, just a small spread of it, as opposed to butter if you don't have the calories for it. But again, when we look at fiber, looking at the back, and then it'll give you all the information, nutritional information. So, yeah. So what I'm basically saying is look at those 2 resources that I've given us all, and they're very helpful, and they can really get you thinking about, because yes, it's we have spoken a lot about the high protein, and hopefully a lot of us, even looking at the journals, a lot of us, I think, speaking for most of us, we do have the protein a little bit more sorted out. Fiber is a new one, so we will run this one again on week number 11. We're on week 5. So fiber is a very important one. Why? Again, gut microbiome. Um, it allows us to eat more whole foods. So it does, the value of fiber links to the value of your fruit and vegetable intake. Um, and obviously oats, seeds, legumes, stuff like that. So it does have a good spectrum, but also disease prevention. And although I said earlier about colon cancer, and I have to give you the exact stats here. So colon cancer, now there's other ones, colon cancer and fiber, just to give you a bit of relevance here. So yeah, it can help reduce colon cancer. So whole grains and fiber and cancer risk. So Cancer Research UK, and there has been studies done on this. So fiber is a type of carbohydrate. Hopefully we know that. But yeah, a high fiber diet, including plenty of whole grains, can lower the risk of bowel cancer. Um, so definitely one thing to be looking at. The government recommends that adults have a minimum of 30 grams of fiber each day. Most of us don't reach this amount. So I think I've said that before. So definitely research it. It's one that I think we don't. I'll just share this actually because I'll just, instead of me just browsing a page and not letting us see it, it's definitely one that we need to pay a little bit more attention to. And it's from a health point of view. So whole grain options have more fiber. So switch refined grains to like whole wheat pasta, 75-gram portion, 6.5 grams of fiber. Oats, 40-gram portion, 3 grams. Brown rice, popcorn, wholemeal bread. Um, and then remember, you can also top fiber up with fruit, veg, pulses like beans and nuts. So again, should you take a fiber supplement? Not really. As we always say, and as I always say, it's linked here. Um, Most people, the best way to get fiber is by making changes to our diet. Aim to eat more high fiber foods, not supplements. The research on fiber and cancer risk is on the fiber in which we eat, not fiber supplements. So I hope that kind of clears that question up. Now, I barely have any time. I've overran all that because of going off on little tangents. But I have a question here from Emer. If I am counting calories for weight loss, would going for an extra 3 mile walk or equivalent exercise be an alternative to eating 200 less calories? I will say the best answer to that is it depends. I don't like, because yeah, if we research online, it will say a 3 mile walk burns exactly 180 to 300 calories. But if you've worked with me or if I've said it before, you will hear this. I do not like calorie burn because it is so many factors. Like how brisk is the walk? What's your individual ability to burn calories? So calorie numbers are estimates. I would be more of the opinion, yes, it would allow you a little bit more, but that's why I ask all of us not to allow. Now, you don't use it, Emer, but if you're using MyFitnessPal and you have a fitness tracker, turn it off because you will be given this extra, like you do a session FSM and it'll give you an extra 600 calories that day. You, you're not going to lose weight that like that. When I give calorie targets, um, I give those calorie targets with exercise included. So for you, Emer, I have given you 1 to 3 days of exercise. That is 30 minutes of intense exercise 3 times a week. A lot of times, adding exercise, we overestimate the amount of exercise we're actually doing. So I'd be very cautious on adding loads. If you felt a little bit hungrier, maybe get an extra apple in there, an extra banana. Don't go out doing an extra 3 mile walk thinking that that's going to allow me to have an extra 200 calories. Um, I would be chasing an extra walk for air to get the body moving, for headspace. I wouldn't do it for extra calories. I don't know. I'm not. I know that's not where the question's coming from, but I would be very cautious on just increasing a little bit of exercise just to see if we are allowed more calories. It's if I've said anything in the past, I might get this up again. Um, Calories from exercise is the icing on the cake. So calorie breakdown, I just want to show a diagram of this. Non-exercise. Sorry. I'm trying to get a picture, a visual picture of this for you. Yeah, there we go. Can this give me a, is it going to put me on? Okay, here we go. Yeah. Okay, so very briefly, I just wanted to get a diagram of this. I've got this off, what do you call it? Google, and it's sent me into Facebook here, so bear with me. So components of energy expenditure. Now, I don't want this to become a science lecture, but if this will let me come down here. Which, no. There, okay. So, person doing strenuous work, person doing like a bank clerk. Now, this will like this is stuff that people are not even it's a lot of it is down to occupation as well. Someone like me gets away with a lot more than someone sitting in an office. Um, so a lot of it is just not even thinking about the activity. When people say, "Oh, I can't go for a walk," I find it difficult because I'm just up and down. I'm walking all the time. I don't drive, so I'm walking. So treat this as me, treat this as someone sitting in an office. BMR, as you can see, is a big amount of someone who just that's how much you need to survive. So that red BMR. Um, again, TEF effect or thermic effect of feeding is from just the effect of eating food. But then we look at NEAT, non-exercise thermogenesis. So that is a really important part. So it's stuff that your body burns for everything you do that is not sleeping, eating, or exercising. So there's exercise. TEA. Not very big. So it's trying to find ways that, yes, you just improve the overall intake or overall activity level. But I wouldn't bank it all on just doing an extra walk. I would do the walk for other reasons. And I know that's not answering the question 100%, but don't just, as I've said to a lot of you before, calories are not exact science. Yes, exercise more, eat less, but it's much more than that. So what I would do is I would go for the extra walk and if you want to have an extra piece of fruit, but it's very small margins here. So it doesn't mean we can like go for a walk for an extra pint or an extra glass of wine or an extra bag of crisps. If you're doing it, trial it, give it a go. But I would look at the whole week. So can we add in extra pieces of activity that you're not even thinking about? I'm not expecting us all to ditch the car and walk to work or walk to the bus. But over the years, and that's why I'm very like I wouldn't be I'm very leaning towards not driving because that's me there. Because I don't even think about it like that non-exercise activity thermogenesis. My work is quite active. I walk to work. I come home from work by walking. My steps are always in the well, it's a bit low today, 17,000 steps, but like without like thinking about it. So you moving the needle, Emer, you unless like your job and your overall day change an awful lot, you're never going to be here. An extra walk here might move the needle a tiny bit, but it's not as great as we think. So just be careful when it comes to calorie burn and exercise. It's not as great as we think. I would do the exercise more for other reasons. Experiment, but it could be just the extra apple. It's not going to move the needle that greatly. I didn't even get to any of our journals, which is quite annoying because I've went into detail, but I hope I've tried to answer the questions as best as possible. I do love questions because they get me thinking as well. How do I kind of answer them without going on tangents. Any questions about any of this, let me know. I'll have this posted, and I'm going to put in my little Easter egg, which will be what I just spoke about. NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's my Easter egg. So if we watch this, pop that in the comments to say you've watched the end. Hope you enjoy, guys, and I look forward to talking to you all on the calls tomorrow.